Good morning. Today on Spotlight, an in-depth look at what's happening to revitalize and support Detroit neighborhoods. Millions of dollars are being invested where Detroiters live and play. Wendy Lewis-Jackson, Managing Director of the Kresge Foundation's Detroit program, will join me. And later in our program, we'll remember the late Governor William G. Milliken with a very special tribute. It's Sunday, October the 27th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. And welcome to Spotlight as we direct our attention on neighborhoods. Wendy Lewis-Jackson, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Downtown, Midtown get a lot of attention, a lot of press. We cover it a lot from the media. The neighborhoods probably don't get as much attention, but should, because there's a lot going on, and we oftentimes hear people say, oh, there's nothing going on in neighborhoods. Not true.
Right. There's quite a bit underway now in terms of neighborhood revitalization in the city of Detroit. And at the Kresge Foundation, we've identified neighborhood revitalization as a priority. So since 2016, we've been moving our investments closer and closer to the people and the places that power our neighborhoods across the city.
Right, you guys have sunk a boatload of money into the neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
How do you prioritize which neighborhoods? Because it's such a big city. There's so many different neighborhoods, and let's face it, everybody feels like their neighborhood is the most important neighborhood.
So for us, the Detroit program at the Kresge Foundation, we are very fortunate that we're able to invest about $32 to $35 million a year just in the city of Detroit. And so as I said, in 2016, we prioritized neighborhood revitalization. And for us, it's a both and. It's not one neighborhood versus another. We're trying to do things that cover neighborhoods across the city, like with our Kresge Innovative Projects Detroit initiative, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Right.
But also, we're also looking at very specific areas of the city, such as the Livernois 6 Mile area, the Jefferson Chalmers area, parts of Southwest Detroit, and the North End community in the city. So for us, it's a both and. We're fortunate that we're able to spread resources where they're most needed in different parts of the city and in different neighborhoods.
You have a big announcement coming up on, I believe, November the 5th. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that's going to entail?
Yeah, so as part of our focus on neighborhood redevelopment in the city and how to do that in an equitable way that lifts up the leadership and voice and power, really, of residents that are doing the work on the ground in neighborhoods, we created an initiative back in 2015. It's called Kresge Innovative Projects Detroit, and we're in our 6th round. So on November 5th, we'll be announcing that funding will be available for neighborhood groups across the city. We provide $150,000 for projects, the implementation of projects, as well as planning grants for neighborhoods and neighborhood organizations in particular that are looking to do something innovative, new, different in their community. And so since that initiative started in 2015, we've invested $12 million in projects all across.
That's the figure that I've been hearing. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, so on November 5th, we'll make an official release of the 6th round of Kresge Innovative Projects Detroit is up and running and folks can apply. And I think we'll be putting about $1.5 million.
Okay, and then the announcement will come next year, correct?
Right.
If people think that they're eligible, what should they do?
They should check out our website, www.kresge.org, and all of the information will be there in terms of the application process, the deadlines for submission. They'll also get details on the kind of projects that we funded across the city, so they'll be able to see what some examples might look like and how they could compare to their project.
Talk a little bit about, I know that when you go out and you make your speeches or when you're just putting out publications about the Kresge Foundation, I keep seeing a word called equitable development. What does that mean?
So for us, it means that the redevelopment of the city benefits Detroiters and all Detroiters. And so that, for us, comes down to how we finance projects, where we finance projects, what kind of organizations that we invest in. But it really just means making sure that Detroiters benefit from the redevelopment that's underway in our city.
Yeah, from all walks of life and all types of neighborhoods.
Exactly.
So it looks like it's even across the board when it's all said and done.
Exactly.
You also talk a lot about it being driven by people in the neighborhood, by the residents and by residential neighborhoods. How important is that to this entire revitalization that we keep talking about?
Well, the way we look at it is if the revitalization of the city is going to have staying power, we have to invest in the people that have been on the ground trying to lift up redevelopment and revitalization in their neighborhoods long before the conversation started about the city's recovery.
Long before it became chic
Exactly.
to move into the city.
Yeah.
These are people that have been here during the good times and the bad
and
times.
the bad times.
But also welcoming those who have decided, okay, maybe I want to leave the burbs or maybe I want to leave another city, but I want to come to the quote unquote heart of the city, and that's the neighborhood.
Exactly. And so there's so many unsung heroes in our neighborhoods that have been working as block club captains, leading some of our community development organizations, working as volunteers in various kind of community organizations and on various projects. And whether they've been here a long time or they're new to the city, those are the kinds of voices that we feel it's important to invest in, and making sure that they have the resources necessary to keep doing what they're doing, but also take it to another level.
All right, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, I want to have you drill down on what's happening in the Woodbridge neighborhood, Marygrove, big campus there, and then what you're doing in the world of the arts.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Spotlight, talking to Wendy Lewis Jackson of the Kresge Foundation. How's Rip?
Rip's doing great.
All right,
Doing
Rip
great.
Rapson, who is overall head of the foundation, but he's traveling a lot these days.
Yes. So, we're a national foundation
Absolutely.
and have efforts and investments underway in various organizations across the country. And so Rip right now is on the West Coast, I believe.
Okay, very good. The Woodbridge neighborhood, I know that's part of what you talked about earlier in terms of what's going on there, but drill down and be a little more specific about how important that is to this overall development.
Sure. Well, one of our first developments, or excuse me, first investments in probably from 2009 until 2016, we've had a pretty significant set of investments in the Midtown area, part of the city. And so Woodbridge, because of its proximity to Wayne State University,
Right.
Is an area, and they've just recently received one of our Kresge Innovative Projects Detroit grants, where they're doing some housing revitalization. And so because of its proximity to Midtown and the cultural center, as well as Wayne State, it just is a neighborhood that we felt it was important to provide some resources to as they seek to continue their beautification efforts as well as their housing revitalization.
Right, and so much going on in that area. Marygrove got a lot of attention when it was announced that the college would be closing down, but that's not going to be the stop of what's happening in that area, thanks to you guys.
Yeah, it's been just a fascinating and tremendous project to be a part of. And yes, the Marygrove College it will be transitioning and closing later this year.
That's the one you call Cradle to Career?
But they're thinking about their legacy and how to continue to play a role in the educational transformation underway in the city. And so they have launched through the Marygrove Conservancy a new Cradle to Career campus on that amazing 53-acre gem in Northwest Detroit.
So it kind of starts with the babies in daycare, and it's going to hopefully follow them all the way through.
So yes, Marygrove is a partnership between the Detroit Public Community School District and the University of Michigan. and the Marygrove Conservancy and Starfish Child and Family Services.
So those are key anchors and key partnerships pulling together.
So they're working to transform the campus into a cradle-to-career campus. So a new early childhood center will be coming online. We're breaking ground on that actually very soon. And then
so there'll be new buildings going up in the midst of some of the beautiful old buildings in Marygrove.
Exactly. One of the older buildings will be renovated to serve students from kindergarten through 8th grade. And the high school, the 9th grade program started this September with 120 students. And so the partnership is well underway.
Yeah, the arts. You're doing a lot with the arts. I think it's called AXD. What's that stand for? Or is that just one of those, who knows?
Yeah, well, it's part of our Kresge Arts in Detroit initiative. Okay. And, you know, fascinating story. One of the very first things that the foundation invested in when we were really ramping up our efforts to be supportive and power this city's recovery was the arts. And it's really kind of an untold story of how the arts really was the kind of the focal point for a lot of the revitalization that we see now. And so through our Kresge Arts in Detroit program, we've been providing general operating support to over 70 arts organizations across the region. We celebrate an eminent artist every year. We talked about Marion.
Marion Hayden, who's with Straight Ahead, and also does her own thing.
Yeah, and so she is one of our Kresge Fellows, where we also provide fellowships to individual artists in various disciplines every year.
Sure, Marcia Music is involved in this, and a number of other artists around
And so
town.
AXD is our way of kind of taking those efforts and channeling them to the neighborhoods. So we're piloting a way for Kresge Arts Fellows to do some of their projects and some of their works at a neighborhood scale. And we launched that initiative week before last. And so we have 5 artists who are Kresge Fellows who are now doing projects in the neighborhoods, and we'll take a look at that at the completion of the project and see how we might expand it to other neighborhoods in next year and coming years.
Would it be safe to say that you are extremely optimistic about where Detroit is headed in its revitalization?
I am. Detroit is headed in the right direction. There's still many challenges that we have to face head on. The levels of concentrated poverty in our neighborhoods, especially as it impacts children. We really have to double down and be much stronger in trying to address the needs of children and families in our neighborhoods. But overall, I'm very optimistic about the direction that the city is headed in. And we'll continue at the Kresge Foundation to power that recovery and that revitalization.
Yeah, because Kresge does so much around the country, how much does Detroit, as someone over the Detroit program, how much do you have to fight to make sure that Detroit's getting its fair share versus Atlanta and other places where you might be doing business?
Well, we're one foundation, and Detroit is our hometown. Okay. And so the Detroit program is our largest grant-making program at the foundation. Our leadership is committed to the turnaround of this city and the city that we call home. So yes, we have resources and programs and initiatives all across the country in various cities. Right. But
we get the lion's share, right?
But we're large enough of an organization to meet the needs of not every city, but a significant number. So in addition to Detroit, we're doing a great deal in the city of Memphis, the city of New Orleans, Fresno, just to name a few.
All right. Final question. You spent a lot of time over in the Grand Rapids area. You used to teach at Grand Valley, I think. There's a little bit of friendly competition between Grand Rapids and Detroit. They're doing an awful lot in the Grand Rapids area, not just downtown, which is doing very, very well, but also in their neighborhoods, in their Miracle Mile. We're probably lucky to have someone who has spent some time there, but also on this side of the state now, because everybody always talks about if the state's going to come back, its major cities have to come back.
Exactly. No doubt about that. And I got my start in philanthropy in Grand Rapids, just as they were working on the beginnings of the turnaround of their downtown, and now they're moving out to the neighborhoods as well. So there are tremendous parallels, east and west. And you're right, if the state's economy is powered by, in many ways, its cities. And so we need to pay attention to not only what we're doing in Detroit, but also what we're doing in Grand Rapids, Flint, and some of the other major centers in the state.
All right, Wendy Lewis Jackson, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for
Pleasure having you
me.
on Spotlight for the first time, but let's not make this your last time.
Oh, thanks.
All right, we'll get you back. And when we come back, we'll remember the longest serving governor of this state, William Milliken, and his connection to Spotlight throughout the years. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And finally today, our condolences to the family and many friends of Bill Milliken of Traverse City. He passed away recently, just 3 years shy of turning 100. He was Michigan's longest serving governor, a record he will probably always hold. I was fortunate to interview him twice at his beautiful home in Traverse City and once on the porch of the historic Grand Hotel after he gave a standing ovation speech in 2005 to the Detroit Regional Chamber. My final conversation with him, and I believe his last major television interview, took place in November 2008, just a few days after Barack Obama was elected president. Here now are some excerpts from that very memorable one-on-one. Governor, we're sitting down just a few days after the most historic presidential election that any of us can remember. What is your reaction to what you've just witnessed?
My reaction was one of great excitement and thankfulness that he had been successful. I think it is a remarkable thing that he has accomplished. It's a remarkable thing because it is reverberating all over the world now, in Europe, in Africa, across the globe, one of enormous excitement and enthusiasm and the feeling that at long last America is coming back from a period when our relationships abroad could not have been worse in many respects. So I was very pleased. By no means is the racial factor totally disappeared with the election of Barack Obama. But I think we have made, as a result of this election, an African American now the President of the United States. That's sending the message throughout our country. And I anticipate nothing but improvement and hopefully recovery in the whole area of race relations.
In the primary, you endorsed Senator John McCain, but you softened on that endorsement, correct?
Well, first of all, I have had great respect for John McCain. He had the reputation of being a straightforward, open, candid, even called a maverick, even in challenging his own party and challenging people within his party. And that's why I endorsed him in the Republican primary. I felt that he was head and shoulders above anyone else who was running against him. And then, unfortunately, I think he began, as soon as he got the nomination, he began to take a whole new approach in his pursuit of the presidency. And I became quite disappointed. And I indicated that on a number of occasions publicly. I still have enormous respect for him as an individual, and given his background and his status as a hero and a genuine hero, I do have respect for him in that way, but I think he ran an unfortunate campaign, and I regret that.
So, Governor, would it be safe to make the assumption that you voted for Senator Barack Obama?
I did not make any public endorsements, but I will tell you directly and honestly that I voted I voted for Senator Obama for president. And I have no regrets about having done that. I felt that he was far and away, as the campaign unfolded and neared the end, he was far and away the best person to lead this country in very critical and dangerous times.
Any chance you're thinking about leaving the Republican Party? You know, there are some out here who would probably just say, oh, Bill Milliken is just a closet Democrat.
I will restate my strong conviction to you again that I believe in a strong two-party system, and I'm going to do everything I can to make my party a growing and responsible and strong political entity.
During your leadership years in the state of Michigan, you were coined the Green Governor. From where you sit today, how well are we protecting our environment here in America and in the state of Michigan?
Not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. We still have a need to recognize in this country the fact that we, in fact, do have global warming. And that is one of the great challenges of our century, to deal with that, to do it courageously and effectively, and to do it quickly.
Coming up, what Governor Milliken said when I asked him how he wanted to be remembered. How would you like to be remembered?
Well, that's a good question and a very difficult question. But I would say that I would hope that I would be remembered as a governor of this state, as someone who tried to do the right thing, who tried to advance the cause of racial equality in our state, who tried to head a government that dealt honestly and openly and fairly with every person in this state, and who tried to put intense partisanship aside to do what I felt was in the best interests of Michigan as a whole. If I can have somewhat of that reputation as a governor, having served longer than any other governor in state history, I will be totally content.
Governor, thank you for sitting down with me here at your home in Traverse City. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Bill Milliken, a true statesman to always be remembered.